Narcissists are faking it. Many victims don't even think about it when they're caught up in the grandiose fantasies of these narcissists. But the reality is that narcissists are faking it. They're pretending to be something they're not. They're pretending to have some knowledge or ability that they don't really have. Which is why they will make commitments and then not follow through. Because they want your attention. So they will try very hard to be liked and to relate to you. Because all they care about is gaining your approval to the point where they have abandoned themselves. But they actually have no true self at all. Because they're just whatever they think people want to see. And most people are like this. They're giving you a false impression. They're convincing you of untrue information. Because they know that otherwise you wouldn't be interested in them. And people are like this everywhere in the world today. Just look at the models on Instagram. They may look perfect, but have you ever seen them take a dump? You may not want to believe it, but it's something they do every day. And you don't see that on Instagram. You see the perfect photo, taken from the perfect angle, that she selected from hundreds of images she took on her phone. Images that were faked using lighting, different angles and editing, of someone who may be wearing makeup and have Botox injections or plastic surgery. In fact, more than 55% of Instagram influencers were involved in some form of social media fraud and fakery in 2020. And a new study by Hype Auditory also found that 45% of Instagram accounts were fake, which means that those accounts were created using stolen identity information, so they're not being run by who you may think it is. And it's no different with all the wealthy male influencers you see on Instagram. All of their cars and mansions may be borrowed or rented. And even the people who you know personally, people who own their own home, they may not have told you that their father paid for it, or that they're paying off a loan for the next 50 years. And those people who are always travelling to different countries, and yet they're actually 50k in debt. And they're arguing every time they're there. You don't see any of that. You don't even hear about it. And that's just on social media. Because even outside of Instagram, most people are faking everything about their lives. And narcissists are no different. Which may cause you to criticize and judge yourself too harshly. Because it may make you think you're far behind. It may make you feel depressed about your life. It may make you feel stuck, as though your life is miserable, while the narcissist is pretending like everything is fine. But the truth is that they're only able to affect you in this negative way because they're already being influenced by their own inner critic or an external factor, which has caused them to become artificial, pretentious, and designed to impress. People cannot negatively affect you unless they themselves are dealing with some form of insecurity, which then causes them to be disposed or inclined to behave in this way, to where they then have an effect on you. They make a difference to your mental and emotional state, which may move you emotionally, but it's only because they're dealing with their own unresolved pain. And the more extreme their behaviour is, the more insecure they must be, to where they will trouble and upset you. They will cause overwhelm, devastation, damage and hurt, because that's exactly what they're going through. And their experience is likely to be much worse than anything you're going through, which is why they do these things. To try to pull you down to their level, because they want you to feel how they feel. And that's what compels them to engage in this behaviour, to the point where they may realise and accept that you're never going to be as miserable as they are. So they will put on a show and pretend to be happy, because at least then they can experience a sense of elevation at your expense. They can have a taste of what it might feel like to be above you, even though it isn't even real, but they're willing to settle for it, because it feels much better than their reality. The problem is that in order for them to engage in this mind-numbing behaviour, you have to be disconnected from yourself. You can't know your true value. you can't know who you really are, because then it destroys the illusion. It pulls them back down to reality, which is why they are comfortable manipulating and deceiving you and causing you to question yourself, even if it causes you years of suffering and destroys your mental health, because all they care about is themselves. And really, it's not even themselves. It's how they see and feel about themselves in their own minds. And they use you as a prop to distort the perception of themselves, because you are the real deal. So if they can make you think you're less than them and still get your validation, it's a very potent source of supply. It fuels their grandiosity, because they already know you're better than them. But if they can cause you to think differently, they get to exist in the fantasy world. So that's the incentive for their behaviour. It's what motivates them. And it's why they can't even consider the pain and suffering you're going through, because if you knew the truth, then their pain would be much worse. They're doing everything they can to avoid having to reflect on their feelings of shame, worthlessness, and insignificance. So they're never going to accept that they're a narcissist. They're never going to tell you they're mentally ill, because that's the very thing they're trying to get away from. They're using you as a tool so that they can forget about all of that. You provide a distraction, an escape from their miserable lives, so they're never going to look in the mirror. They're never going to accept that their lives are messed up. They're never going to care, and they're never going to do anything about it. They're just going to blame you for it, because that's the whole point. That's why they need you for. It's why they need supply, so that they can pretend that their life isn't as bad as what it actually is. And in order for them to have this privilege of continuously escaping from their miserable lives, they have to affect you. They have to feel like you face some calamity or demise. They have to make things worse for you, even though the reality may be that they're always going to be far more worse off than you, and the only reason they feel like they're above you is because they're simultaneously putting you down, and they're elevating themselves in their own minds. And they're dumping all of their duties and responsibilities onto you, which is why they never take accountability and they never make the right decisions. Because what would be the point? They know nothing is ever going to be better for them, so why even try? It makes more sense for them to continue being fake, because at least then they get to pretend. And this is why many of them are antisocial, because they're too scared to stand up for what they believe in. They're spineless, they just follow whatever is trending, because they lack control in their lives. So they have to do what everyone else is doing in order to fit in, which is why they will do anything in order to protect their false image. Because although they may act superior and grandiose, the reality is that the existence of their false self is dependent on your approval and validation, so without you they really don't have anything. But then they also have to devalue you in order to keep you around, so really they only get the worst of you. And the only time they get to see a better side of you is when they're not with you, because that's the only time that you can thrive. And yet many of us wonder why narcissists like to act like they're living their best lives with their new supply. Because they see it that that's how it is with you. They know that they will never get the best of you and that they will also have to settle for crumbs, because it's the only way they can capture your attention. It's the only way they can keep you under their control. If they were to fix things, you wouldn't need them, because all of the problems would be solved. And they actually enjoy the way their disorder functions. They like how it gets them the things that they need. So they have no desire to fix anything. And yet they will post on social media and tell everyone how great everything is. And if you ask them how they're doing, they're not going to tell you their lives are difficult, challenging and full of hardship and struggle. They're not going to admit that. They will pretend like everything is going good, because they would rather lie than to admit that they have a problem, when secretly they hate their lives and they're miserable. Which is why when they were with you, they were Debbie Downers. They were persistently negative and pessimistic. They only spoke of the bad or depressing aspects of things, while lessening your enthusiasm or pleasure. They brought negativity to every situation, because it was a projection of how they felt about themselves. They hate themselves and their miserable lives, and yet they will never express this to you. They will never tell you that they're in debt, or that they hate their job, or that they struggle to control their emotions. They will never admit that they have a mental health problem, and instead they will blame you for everything. They will insult you and put you down, and they will make your life miserable, rather than confronting their own issues. Because this is what they've been doing their entire lives. They've been denying that there is anything wrong with them, because they're attached to their egos, which prevents them from being vulnerable with you. So then they continue to suffer, because they can project everything onto you and blame you as much as they want. They can make your life miserable, but that's not going to fix their own lives, and it's not going to improve their mental health. It's actually just going to worsen their condition and make them even more miserable, to where they then become even more abusive. And it's just a vicious cycle that they can't escape from, simply because they can't drop their own egos, because they have to put on a show. They have to prove to you that they're not the issue, while behind closed doors they're angrily abusing their new supply, just as they once did with you, while making everyone else believe that everything was fine. Until you started to wake up, and then they told everyone else that you were the problem, and then maybe they went on social media to post a picture of their new car, without telling anyone that they still owe 5 years worth of payments on it. Or maybe they posted their vacation while they're still 50k in debt, and then they've got to go back to their job at McDonald's, because this is just how they choose to live their lives. They're not really doing what they want to do. It's all an illusion. You may see them posting all of this stuff on their Instagram stories, but in reality they're miserable, and it may look like they have money to spend when really they're broke. Their bank account is negative, but each month they're paying rent that they can't afford. They're going out every weekend, they're buying expensive meals, and they're acting like they're doing better than they are, just as they may have been doing while they were with you. They may have been running your health and finances into the ground, and now they're just pretending to be something with someone else, when the truth is they're not doing so good. They're just so caught up in letting everyone know that they're doing good, to the point where they're not even giving themselves a chance to become something good, because instead of going out every weekend, they should eliminate distractions and dedicate themselves fully to a task or a project, instead of constantly searching for new supply. But of course they're never going to do that, because they can't function without supply. So their lives will always remain the same, because they're always looking at what everyone else is doing and they're thinking it looks cool. They're constantly scrolling on their social media. They're comparing their lives to everyone else's, instead of dealing with their mental health. Because they have a fear of missing out, they experience constant anxiety, because they fear that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere, or that they're not in the know about or missing out on information, events, experiences or life decisions that could make their life better. So they may go on vacation with their new supply, and it may look like they're having such a great time together, when really the narcissist may just want to show you how great it was. And they may want you to think that their new supply took them on vacation to make you feel jealous, or to make you think that you're missing out on something, when they're not even happy with it themselves. They're just using it to get your attention, because they have a fear of missing out with you. But they will go wherever is more comfortable for their disorder, wherever it's less painful. which just prevents them from doing what they really like to do, but they're still telling you that everything's all good. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button to receive the notifications. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate at paypal.me/Narc Survivor. You can book a one-on-one with me on my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.